Hey Roshan, welcome to the Your Salesforce Journey podcast, and really excited to have you. I'll just start with your short and brief introduction here. Ladies and gentlemen, Roshan Kotla, one of my personal favorites, and he's the founder of Altokk Software Solutions, and he also runs the Salesforce Hyderabad community, and recently started his new venture, the Salesforce Club. So really excited to have Roshan on board.
Thank you, Sanjeet. Thank you. Thank you.
Great, Roshan. So just to start with, how is the Salesforce Club going? This is the a new thing, right? And I see you surrounded by folks every time at all the conferences we meet. So what is the Salesforce Club about?
Quite honestly, I think half of them who's surrounding don't know who's Roshan Kotla. So they're just like, somebody's here around. But first of all, thanks for having me here, Sanjeet. It's great. It's exciting and perfect time of the day. This is the best time to have a chat, I would say. And to your question, how is it going? I think it's going great. It's overwhelming. Overwhelming is probably the word because of the response of what's happening in the back end. There's so much, once you start thinking about putting out content, I think there's so many ideas that are coming through. We've got good response on for whatever so far we have done on LinkedIn, a little bit of videos here and there. So that gives us confidence and motivation, encouragement, all the good words I can say, especially in the recent events we met at India Dreaming, Architect Summit, the WIT event. So that validation has been coming and the feedback has been coming through as well. So yeah, there's a lot to do. I think in short, I can say it's overwhelming and we plan for 10 things, we end up doing 3 things, but even those 3 are being appreciated so far, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much that can potentially come through is what I'll say.
No, for sure. And another thing I would like to say is people don't recognize because your LinkedIn DP does not match with your face now. So probably, as we discussed, right, you should have a tag here with your original DP.
I mean, yeah, your solution was probably a little funny to say, okay, have an ID card shots. But I think before every event comes, I probably should come with a post saying, hey, if you see this, if you see this or this person, it's still me. So don't, still say hi to me and don't ignore assuming somebody else.
No, because people definitely know Roshan Kotla. It is just that they sometimes misrecognizing, but still you are surrounded by so many folks. If you have been recognized, then I don't know what would happen.
We'll fix the recognition problem next time.
Great. No, I have seen a lot of traction with the Salesforce Club, so great going there. So let's dive into how you started into the Salesforce ecosystem. You started like 2010, right? 2009, 10. So
yes,
yes. How was the ecosystem then, and was it your own choice to be into Salesforce, or was it just some MNC who just pushed you into the CRM domain, which I can relate to?
The second one. It's the second one. So in short, I come from a computer science background, but honestly, how I don't know if you know or not know, but what we study and how we study in our engineering days.
Yeah.
So I was glad I was at Infosys because Infosys doesn't have a programming test. It was an aptitude test. So
likewise. I was also from Infosys.
So I would score well any day on aptitude and logical skills, things like that. My score. So yeah, I was there and trained on random technologies, and somebody rolled a dice and said, "Hey, Roshan, you should go to Salesforce." So there was not a choice, and there was no training back in those days. The community was not as big as it is. There was no trailhead. There were very few seniors who could actually tell us what is Salesforce. So how was it? It was like that by accident. And I think just to understand what is Salesforce, it took about, I don't know, some months for sure. It was not days. I took a few months to digest or understand what Salesforce does as a platform, as a product. So in fact, that is also one of the reasons you mentioned Salesforce Club, right? So the reason, or I've been teaching, but Salesforce Club is an attempt to see how can I teach more, or can I go back to those days in memory and say, hey, there's still people who, when they start, would have the same problem. can I make that journey shorter and make them understand Salesforce better, or any part of Salesforce, right? The consulting, whatever I think I can talk about is the idea. So yeah, it was definitely a struggle, and I got what, a 5-minute intro or a 7-minute intro to Salesforce is all I got from the person who got me into Salesforce, or who the first person I met as part of Salesforce practice. I got a 7-minute intro about Salesforce, and then I said, yeah, go ahead, start exploring and working on it.
So you started with Visual Force pages, or was it S controls back then?
Both were existing at that time, so we had, but S controls were only going well because Visual Force was already introduced and it was picking up. Yeah, but front end is not my thing. I'm saying it publicly. I'm more aptitude, more logic, more solution architect. Business consulting. You can put any of those words and I'll associate, but not a UI.
Not UI.
Yes. So more often than not, I would probably run away from Visual Force. So that's what happened when I started teaching. Again, I had to go back, revisit, understand the concepts of different kinds of controllers, what tags, association of Apex with Visual Force, what are the different ways, a little bit of JavaScript. So but in terms of the age, it was the age of Visual Force. S controls were fading away, and Visual Force was the cool thing.
Yeah. So I think you said for a really long term, right? In Infosys, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, if you have seen my LinkedIn profile, yes, it's more than 8 years that I spent time, and it was good. I think I pretty much played a lot of different roles. In fact, whenever I go as a speaker, I put all the roles, my favorite roles at least. So yes, dev, analyst, lead responsibilities. I loved analyst roles more often than not. And I was fortunate to have some nice people to work with, some nice managers or bosses, you can call, at a later point, in the second half, or say when I had picked my skills better than my first half, because the first half was more wondering about what I'm going to do, what, etc., etc. But once I picked up, I think I got good opportunity, and I worked with Indian, European. I also lived in Europe for a few years, and of course, US is by default.
US by default.
Yeah, that's a fun journey, but it was a nice one.
Great. No, I also started with Infosys. So I started from college. I was recruited to Infosys, right? So I spent some time in Mysore. I think you probably have gone through the same grind. Did you go through Mysore?
Yeah, Mysore, 5 months of fun.
Yeah, 5 months of training in Mysore. Then I was relocated to Trivandrum. So I was in Trivandrum for about a year or so, and then I left Infosys. I joined a startup in Noida, and things changed from then. But yeah, Infosys teaches you a lot of professionalism. You need not be late in the meetings, and it is really highly professional, I would say. Yeah, I won't comment on the technology side of things. Yeah, but it is professional.
I think if you've also come from Infosys, anybody who's listening to this, Infosys is definitely a great company to start your career with.
But not end.
But the only thing is, if you get into a technology which you like, if you get into a role which you like, you can definitely have a longer one like I had probably. But you can't choose. It's tough to choose. Not just Infosys, any big company that we talk about.
You can't choose.
You don't know. You can't choose as much as, or you don't have the same amount of visibility as you would have in a startup you join, and a startup that you started or I've started. So I think smaller organizations give you more visibility, and if you're somebody who want to be always in the front row, startup is the place.
Yeah, and I think with these big companies, like, they can't function without their SOPs in place. So they have to follow certain processes, guidelines. Because I remember I was thrown to Trivandrum out of nowhere, right? I said, hey, dude, we have an office in Chandigarh, so why don't you transfer me here? Or maybe in Bangalore is also fine. But they were like, no, this is how it works. So I had to stay there for a year or so.
Were you not given the option of joining the E&R, and you could choose after a year?
No. So it is like they ask you your preferences, top 3 preferences, but they don't give a damn about it. So Trivandrum was not my preference, but it was a great place though. Great. I explored Kerala. It was great, but that was not something
How long
that
did you
I
stay
would.
there? How long?
Almost a year. Almost a year.
Okay. Good enough to enough weekends, about 50 weekends for you to use.
Roam around. First 2-3 months I was just cribbing, and then after 2-3 months I realized that this is how it is, and now we should, just explore a bit. So we were three friends there, and it was great. It was fun.
Happened with a lot of our friends who were from Punjab or Lucknow, and they were thrown to Chennai. Okay,
Yeah, Chennai is also
and
another hot place for that.
they literally cried. I think for 3 to 6 months, like, what's the food here? What's the language here? Why is it so? The climate, everything was new. But I think over a period of time, you find out, you figure out your places, friends that you want to stay with, and eventually move to a northern part towards the northern part of the country. But yeah, I can understand, because I had a lot of friends who literally cried.
Right, right. Great. So how did you turn into an entrepreneur from probably an analyst or somebody who was doing customer facing roles?
Okay, good question. Well, actually, interesting, not interesting, but I'd say a very hard question to answer, given there was not one reason. Because when I was at Infosys, and especially my years I lived in Belgium. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, I was working with the end user, or I'd probably say I was working in the presence of end users. So, the understanding of how they look at the system, how the approach is very different from how we look at from a developer perspective, or while we are sitting in an offshore team,
Mm-hmm.
or rather, while even I was at offshore team, there were some good opportunities I got to work directly with customers. There were smaller projects as a junior, which I was given handle. I did, you can say, did not come out great. First couple of months, I had my own share of mistakes that I made and learn from them. But I was still given enough opportunities to work with the clients directly. So somewhere the theory or the understanding was there. Okay, this is how clients speak, or this is what the understanding is. But when I traveled and met more people, I think so. In our team itself, we had like 6 different nationalities. So more than the customer facing, I'd say the experience of working or living with 5, 6 different nationalities at the same time really opened up a lot of
Really
things.
open.
So simple thing could be, cracking jokes in English. It's not something which we grow up with. Okay,
Right, for
and
sure.
and I don't like sitting quiet in a room. You know me. So
Yeah.
so it was really a lot of conscious, but not a training kind of learning. Like, you can't go and say, hey, go to YouTube and say, like, how to crack jokes in English. It was not really that kind, but it was really through them understanding, okay, everybody has a different sense of humor, everybody has a different taste in terms of how they look at culture.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of that somewhere, like, these are the people who are using, right? So when you talk about end users, even US. So once we understand how they look at the world, how, their way of life, automatically, I think we understand the communication, what should we speak, what should we not speak. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where I think it's really, I speak, but speaking the right thing and making sure, you're not hitting the wrong chord, kind of started there. And yeah, I was, teaching 1 or 2 odd people on request. So
On
I knew
request.
there was, on request, there was money. And it happened so that one of my friends, I said, okay, maybe we can, do something together. It didn't go a long distance, but it definitely told me that there's a lot more, and especially unorthodox ways. I think more unorthodox than orthodox in terms of my approach towards a lot of things. Even if you see club or anything that I write or do on LinkedIn, Twitter, I mean, it could be or could not be, but I probably follow. If I think it's right, I just go ahead and do it. So
Oh,
I think that really was one of the biggest reasons, you can say. There are a lot of other reasons as well, and of course the support as well from friends and family to say, yeah, you can do this, yeah, you can do it. Why not? So it just happened, and I think this will sound spiritual, but you also look for signs around the nature that gives you signs. And so the moment we decided, even before we finished the registration, or our bank account was up, we had a client waiting to sign up or waiting to start with us.
oh,
So
great.
that obviously gives you confidence, saying, hey, the company has not even started and you have a client, and doesn't matter what is the size of that check, but you know that you're not waiting for your next meal. Because
Right.
when you just resigned from the job and you're still on your pay until the previous month. So I think that's those signs, there were good enough signs around us, and the freedom that it gives you to say, okay, this is how you want to do it, and this is how you want to do it. Uh, I think though that really was the reason. And if you look at the tagline of our company, so it's called Altokk, but there's a mission statement. It says, "Changing life, make it better." We started as a training. That first assignment was also training actually.
Oh, is it?
That first assignment was also training from a major corporate, and we always had, in terms of like teaching, was always a good feedback that we used to get. But as we do more, and we have got, by then I had built a good network of people around me who believed in me, and say they were not all customers. To be people assume they're all customers. They're not customers, but they're people who could refer my name or trust and say, "Asha, Roshan, yeah, you can trust him, and go ahead and whatever assignment you're thinking of, whether it's training or consulting or a project that you want to outsource, you can still bank on these people because we know Roshan." So I think that happened by the time we started our firm, and that helped us move forward. So when COVID happened, we picked up all kinds of work.
Yeah, COVID, I think it was a peak boom, right? I think it was like booming like anything.
See, if it happens in the first year of you starting the company, you don't know if it's a boom or a bane. Okay.
Right.
Because you're still figuring out. You're still figuring out, and I'm a first gen entrepreneur. So there's not a lot of family business learning. I can say, okay, I look back and say, okay, here's how finances work. Here's how you should look at sales. None of that was there. So it was just doing basic math, saying, hey, how much are you getting? And how much do you have to spend?
How much you have to spend?
You have money left, you do more things. So yeah, but by the time, so we did digest what is happening during COVID. And in 21 was when we started growing, and said, okay, understood, and formed a team which is functioning quite smooth as of today.
Great story. So like it all happened with the flow, right? It was not probably a more conscious decision, but yeah, you got some signals and you started off, right?
It was not a childhood dream or a childhood goal that apni company honi chahiye. It wasn't. I'll be honest, okay.
No, likewise. I think I also started in a similar way. Just started, and COVID happened. Like I have a lot of time. What to do now? So I thought of we started researching, and then I thought let's give it a try. So that is how I think most of the companies are formed, right?
You started after COVID, is it?
During COVID, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, during COVID is also like more conscious of knowing, okay, what are you doing? But
but I think probably towards end of COVID, I would say, partially towards end of COVID would be the right guess. But yeah, while COVID, I was aware of the industry because I was really active and I had some connections in and around. A lot of people were starting up. I think I would say a lot of people were starting up. So I was connected with them, understanding how things work. And but yeah, it was great.
I did none of that. I did none of how it works. Like I didn't have the basic understanding of what's the difference between private limited firm and a proprietorship or a partnership firm.
LLP or
nothing, like absolute zero. Like I said, because the core idea was maybe I can do things our own way and make a difference. That was the only core or single key agenda there. And even today, if I look at whatever we're doing, a lot of things, right? But in every way, I think the bottom line I look at is what is the impact it's going to create. At least the intent. Sometimes we fail. Of course, we fail. I won't say
for sure.
Not 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10 all the times. But the intent has always been from a perspective of, is this adding value to somebody?
The customers or employees or somebody.
It could be team members sometimes. Sometimes just do the regular stuff. But if it's getting money for somebody else to get paid and pursue their journey of or their idea of career growth, why not? So somewhere I think that check is always made. The customer, of course, the team members, and I should. So there are the three win-win-win kind of a thing.
Win-win-win,
common thing we say, but I think it's for me in every decision that is probably somewhere we check saying, is it adding value? Is there a value add that we are bringing in here by doing what we're doing? So yeah.
Great thought there. So one of my favorite questions. What do you think about these certifications, right? So people, I'm sure since you also are running your own organization, so you might have. Yeah, so I
What do
think
you think?
that knowledge and certification both are important. It is not just, you can have a certification and you can just barge in and you don't know anything, right? So I have faced this experience a lot while taking interviews. People have like 10 certifications, but when you ask them a simple question out of any of those, they are not able to answer. So my personal opinion is that you should knowledge with certification is good, but knowledge without knowledge certification is like really harmful.
We are on the same page. So I think that's why I asked you that question, because I kind of assume that we'll be on the same page. I've done hundreds of interviews. Okay, I've done the same thing. Some same, extending the answer. India, US, Europe, same thing. And more often than not, I think me or any other panelist would have ended up picking the knowledgeable person more than the certification person, right?
Right.
This is happening for like almost like from the time I know hiring has been happening. Certifications help in getting the call, or you, like you said, a 10x. Let's get them in the room. So it'll get you the entry in the room or the interview room. But I think if so, my way of approaching, in fact, that's also one of these sessions that that's a part of the session that I keep talking about when approaching the career, how to build a sustainable career. Is if you have learned something, whether through experience or through trailhead or whatever self-learning, once you think you've learned something, you can go to the certification, or start with certification, because that will give you a syllabus to approach a particular kind of skill or a role.
Yeah,
So
so at least
it need
prepare
not
for the
always,
certification, right?
yeah, I mean, like, see, if I go back to our school days, right? How do I know what maths do I study in 7th standard? Somebody said 7th standard maths or 10th standard maths is this
Yeah,
trigonometry, this much algebra, this much this. So you go through the textbook and say, okay, this is what I have to learn. You then, you have teachers or tutors who are helping you understand that and go forward, and then eventually you write an exam and get a certificate.
for
So
sure.
it's the same with certificate as well. You can approach it the same way, where you refer to say certification as more of a syllabus and say, okay, I want to become an application architect or a sales cloud consultant. So this is telling me, if you want to become a sales cloud consultant, this is what you need. Not just to become a certified one, but more often than not, it will be the same thing which you need in your job as well. So
Right.
that is one way. And like the other way, I said, more like a lot of times it happened with me. Once when the project is there, you don't say, hey, wait, let me go learn and get certified. You just jump onto it, you
Jump on
do
it
the work. That's the other way, where if you happen to work on it or learned it through your own effort, then you go and validate your understanding through the certification, saying, okay, have I learned enough to call myself a sales
to
cloud
call
consultant,
myself
or is there a gap? Because sometimes a lot of people actually have this assumption. They do one small architecture piece and they call themselves architects, right?
architects.
Or,
Yes,
or one they've spoken to one customer at one or two interactions and, I'm a consultant now. But that validation is happening at least to some extent through the certification. So it is validating what you know, or if you're starting, then also you can use the certification more as a guide to know what do I need. Otherwise, people get lost.
yeah,
Concept
yeah.
will come.
No, no, for sure, right? And I think people should go through the tailheads. They should, join a course probably and learn it rather than taking dumps and going out for the certification. That is a bigger concern, right? So that is
Dumps,
something
yeah, I think these days dumps are all not even needed. Like if you go to, there are so many practice. So
practice
back
sessions.
in the days when dumps actually start coming in, even when, so of course I've come across them, but I always look them as a practice paper. Okay, if you're prepared, then you can see that and say, okay, oh, this is how question could probably be. But today you've got so many websites where you can pay maybe $5, $10, do that mock test, and I know where you stand. So you don't need it. I don't think you need a dump these days today to
Yeah,
validate. Yeah,
yeah. That is kind of an older version, I would say. Yeah, but we now have these websites, and they really help you also. If you are going with the right intention, I would say, then they definitely help you getting your certification cleared as well as helping you gain knowledge. Great. So
and
Roshan, what is yeah? Sorry,
just
go
one
ahead.
last thing is, to people who are listening, certifications help, but if you have to compare Roshan, Roshan or Sanjit saying, do we learn more or do we write more certifications? I think your skills will always get you where you want to be. I don't think a certification will stop you unless you're talking about a CTA or an
CTO.
a certification which really puts you apart, sets you apart from everybody else. In fact, I had a very deep discussion. I was just yesterday watching the video. It's still under editing. It's a long video. I was talking to Sebastian, if you know
Mm-hmm,
Sebastian
yeah, I know.
Warner,
Mm-hmm.
CTA coach. And there's a dedicated section we talked about certification, where he himself says certifications are not what people think it is. So you should watch that. There's like good piece of it. So though we're talking about CTA and certified technical architect, there's still, it's very ironical how the discussion went and saying it's not important. Certifications are not important. So,
no, that is
it is
definitely. I see a lot of people, right? I had a podcast with Vishesh, if you know Cloud Files. He's the founder of Cloud Files. So he is not having any certifications. He was like, I don't need certifications, right? But that is his way of thinking. But he's still great towards technology. So there are a lot of people who believe in knowledge, but I think a balance of both takes you a long way. So
yeah, we're not against them, but we're just saying don't just blindly
blindly,
1x, 2x, 3x, 4x, and without focusing on trying to implement them or have a use case against them, and simply saying I'm 13x and not knowing half of that knowledge is not going to help you. So,
great. So, Roshan, what do you think are the next things coming up in Salesforce, or what clouds should people study, and how's the market situation now? What should any tips and tricks from your side for somebody who's watching this and want to grow into Salesforce ecosystem?
okay. Firstly, very, very, very tricky question, this one, because you can't put a finger. Even sometimes, some of the Salesforce products, they come and we all are chasing them, and suddenly,
Just your thoughts as of today. That's it. Things might change, but yeah.
yeah. So like 3 years ago, we were all looking at industries, Salesforce industries, Velocity, right? And it got acquired, and it was really doing very well. Of late, if you see, I think there were a couple of new ones like Manufacturing Cloud. If you see,
Yeah, manufacturing, loyalty management,
yes, and there's a lot of
marketing.
like see, I wouldn't say they are going to be, or I wouldn't talk about market share and all, but definitely if somebody is new, okay, I'll slightly answer it differently. If somebody is new, the advantage Salesforce gives is once you cover your basics, you can always target the latest one, and suddenly you are more experienced than a Roshan or a Sanjeet.
Right, for sure. This is something
Because
really
this is an
amazing.
advantage of beating the entire decade or 2 decades of experience just with one latest thing. It could be uh, Tableau CRM, Einstein, or Manufacturing Cloud, or
Yeah.
anything new that keeps coming. But I think Marketing Cloud. A lot of people say, should we just do Marketing Cloud and not else? But I think how I say is, you should still have the basics first. Like just make sure that you know your like Sales Cloud basics, or if you're a developer, your Apex before you're doing something, some other thing, because this is always your fallback. You can go to any Salesforce consulting firm and say, okay, I know Apex and Lightning Web Components, or I know like Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Experience Cloud, 3-4 clouds, and say, okay, if you're good at it, more often than not, you are trusted to be given opportunities in the latest one that come in,
Right.
right? They'll probably give you 1 week training and expect you to deliver. That's a different story. But at least you'll be trusted to be invested money or time on and say, hey, take this project. So newer ones, if I say, I think Marketing Cloud has been doing good. People ask, but I don't know how they approach. But if you're doing it the right way, I think Marketing Cloud still has got a good traction.
Lot of potential. Yeah.
Like good potential, and it's only going. I think it's been consistent compared to other newer products which Salesforce has come up with. I would say so. If somebody is doing Marketing Cloud, could continue doing it. Some other ones, I think they've again come back to. So if you see Field Service, okay, it is renamed.
Field Service also going good, I would say.
Right? But it's kind of expensive, so you'd not see a lot of customers.
Yeah.
Like saying, "Hey, I need fields." But if you want to have that specialist badge, I think Field Service is something which I would definitely recommend. Salesforce Field Service or Financial Services, because okay, to come back to a specific answer, because this can go on, I would definitely say anything towards financial or manufacturing would probably give a good edge in next 1 or 2 years. There's no, I mean, like there's no data to it at this moment, but based on what I've seen, customers conversation and conversations around a lot of other people on the business side, I think we see these two areas along with Marketing Cloud Of course, your Sales Cloud, Service Cloud is always there.
Is always going to be there. Yeah, because I think any organization, like core of Salesforce is Sales Cloud and Service Cloud and probably some bit of Experience Cloud also, I would say. So these three kind
Yes.
of are a package, and CPQ is top of Sales Cloud, FSL is on top of Service Cloud, and then you have Marketing Cloud, is totally different ball game. And Commerce Cloud is again different set of things. So
Yeah,
great.
but that's the question, right? How much demand is there? So that's why I didn't talk about Commerce Cloud. But by the way, FSL is now Salesforce Field Service. So it's
Salesforce Field Service.
if people will, for our viewers, Salesforce Field Service is what we're talking about. If you're new, if you go type on Google, it's more often than not Field Service Lightning. In fact, I have a very detailed video about Field Service Lightning, which has got more than 50K views yesterday. In fact, I think Amit or Apex has posted about it. So it has crossed 50K. So it is a good introduction video about Salesforce Field Service.
Great, Roshan. So I'll also post probably the link for the Salesforce Club on the description. Anybody who wants to get in touch can get in touch with you and have a kind of career counseling.
Yeah, they can get associated with us on social media, but there's a lot of different things that we are working on, and it will come out. It will come out slowly.
Great. Thanks for your time, Roshan. It was great having you on the show, and looking forward to catching up on the next event.
Thank you, Sanjeet. All the best. First of all, thanks for doing this. I think it's interesting to briefly touch upon people's lives. People feed on people's energy. I'm one among them. Congratulations on the firm, KC Consulting, and
thank you.
Good to see more videos. I think you've been doing it consistently. I think consistency is the biggest key, something that we are really looking at. That's why we are like working more in the back and saying, okay, once we start doing more, it really has to be consistent. So I think you've been consistent, and really appreciate you for that. It's not easy to stay consistent with whatever you're doing in life. So with videos.
Yeah, I think that is the key we are trying to target. Right, we are really consistent, trying to be consistent at least. So looking forward to taking this forward.
Perfect. Congratulations and all the best is what I'd say. Thanks for having me here. And for people who are watching, we'll put some links there. Maybe you can connect with us.
For sure, Roshan. Thank you.
Thank you.